Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really jumping into something fascinating, the genetic story of Peru. We've gathered a whole lot of research,
Yeah.
recent studies, detailed analyses, and we're going to use them to uncover insights that, well, they might challenge some assumptions. It's a truly rich, complex picture.
Exactly. And look, this isn't just about percentages, though we will get into some pretty compelling numbers. It's really about what our genes can reveal. About deep history, how people adapt, even important stuff about health. Think of this as your shortcut to getting really well informed about a unique part of the world.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. To really get this, we need to understand the foundation. What's that core genetic signature, the one researchers keep pointing to in Peru?
Right, so study after study shows Peru's genetic makeup is built on one of the strongest indigenous ancestries you find anywhere in the Americas. Researchers often call it Amerindian ancestry. It connects directly back to the continent's original inhabitants.
And can you put some numbers on that? What does that average profile look like?
Yeah, so the average is definitely Amerindian heavy. We're talking around 64% Amerindian, then about, say, 29% European and roughly 3% African ancestry. That 64% Amerindian, that figure is actually quite high for the Americas. It marks a really powerful signal from before Columbus.
Okay, 64% average, but averages can hide a lot, right?
Yeah.
Here's where I think it gets really interesting. What happens when you, zoom in, look at different regions? Do those broader numbers hold up, or do we see big differences?
Oh, absolutely. The regional contrasts are, well, they're stark. They really show the country's diverse history and even its geography. For example, one big analysis reported Peruvians overall are about 63.6% Amerindian, maybe 35.9% European, 2.5% African, plus, interestingly, about 2.1% East Asian ancestry mixed in there, too.
Okay, still broadly similar percentages there, but what about specific places, like Lima?
Right, look at Lima, the
Wow.
capital city. People there averaged around 68% Amerindian, which is a bit higher than the national average, but only 25% European, that's lower, plus about 2% African and 3% Asian. So already a different mix in the city.
Huh. So Lima already shows a distinct profile compared to the overall average, especially that lower European percentage. Does this kind of variation get even more extreme in other regions, like the highlands, the Sierra?
It gets way more dramatic. Peru's highlands, the Sierra region, the studies show an astonishing 95% Amerindian ancestry there.
95%. Wow.
Yeah, 95%. That leaves only about 4%, maybe 5% European. It's a massive difference compared to Lima or the national average.
Okay, 95% Arindian, they just floors me. It really speaks volumes about geography, history, maybe isolation. What are scientists saying about why? How does the land itself seem to shape these genetics?
Well, scientists point exactly to that geographic influence, the Andes. It's rugged terrain, there's historical isolation. It clearly reflects this incredibly strong, enduring indigenous lineage. Meanwhile, you look at urban hubs like Lima, they've been crossroads for centuries, right? Trade, migration. So naturally, you see more European, and as we saw, even significant Asian contributions.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does, and it leads to this kind of intriguing question that came up in the source material. How flexible is identity when your DNA can look so different depending on your zip code?
That's a deep question. Okay, so moving beyond these ancestry percentages, what else is being discovered? You mentioned health implications earlier. Are scientists finding other things in Peru's genetic landscape, maybe hidden stuff?
Yes, and this is where some really cutting-edge work is happening. There was a recent project, quite large, collecting genomic data from over 1,000 individuals, 1,149 people, and they sampled across Peru's main zones. The coast, the Andes, the Amazon.
Okay, and what do they find?
Get this. They uncovered 1.6 million novel genetic variants,
Sorry, novel meaning.
meaning new, variants that hadn't been documented anywhere before, literally new pieces of the human genetic puzzle. And these aren't just, data points. They offer real clues, clues about how human bodies adapt to wildly different environments. Think high altitude, different diets, different diseases.
So understanding why some people might be more resistant to certain illnesses, for example.
Exactly. These discoveries hold enormous promise. Understanding local disease resistance, specific adaptations. It could unlock insights that are vital for medical breakthroughs, not just in Peru, but potentially globally.
Yeah, 1.6 million new variants.
Yeah.
The potential there feels huge for all of us.
But this does bring us into a more sensitive area of genetic research, too. There's also work being done that explores potential links between genetic ancestry and specific health risks.
Right, and I know this can be controversial territory. What did one particular study find regarding native Peruvian ancestry and disease?
Okay, so there was one specific study looking at tuberculosis, TB.
Yeah.
It found that for every 10% increase, someone had a native Peruvian ancestry. There was a corresponding 25% higher risk of progressing from just having a TB infection to developing the active disease.
25% higher risk for every 10% ancestry increase.
That's what the study reported. And crucially, the researchers noted this link seemed independent of socioeconomic factors they measured. Now, it is really important for us to state clearly here. We are just impartially reporting what's in this study. We're sharing the ideas from the source material, not endorsing the conclusions or viewpoints ourselves. It's complex data.
Understood. And it is incredibly complex. A finding like that immediately raises tough questions, doesn't it? Especially thinking about Peru's history, social structures, economic inequalities. How do you even begin to interpret that correlation?
Absolutely. It forces you to think very critically. Does linking ancestry to disease risk actually help? Could it lead to, say, better, more targeted prevention strategies? Or does it risk unintentionally reinforcing old stereotypes or overlooking deeper structural problems that affect health? It's a really delicate balance, and it pushes us to look way beyond just simple correlations.
Definitely food for thought there. So let's try and pull all these different threads together now. We've got the deep indigenous roots, these really striking regional variations, the discovery of novel genes, and these sensitive health links. What's the big picture takeaway for you? What does this deep dive into Peru's genetics really show us?
Well, if you connect all those dots, Peru's genetics emerge as this powerful living case study in human diversity. It's incredible. You see the long-lasting impact of ancient migrations right alongside more recent ones. You see how populations adapt in very specific, localized ways to vastly different environments, the coast, the high Andes, the Amazon jungle. It's this unique blend of genetic threads, and it paints a really vivid picture of human resilience, adaptation, movement across centuries.
Yeah. Understanding all these layers, it definitely helps you grasp the sheer diversity of the human experience. It's not just numbers. It's like reading stories written into our DNA. Stories about history, about survival, connecting the past right to the present.
Exactly. And maybe that leaves us with a final kind of provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If someone today carries, say, 95% Amerindian ancestry genetically, but they live their whole life in Lima, a very cosmopolitan city, would you say their culture or their genes shapes their identity more? Something to think about.
A great question to end on. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the genetic story of Peru. We really hope you walk away feeling a bit more informed and maybe even a lot more curious.